Hey man, welcome back to Man Time. Today's episode, we're going to talk about all the things that have gone wrong with my 2001 CRV since I've owned it. This car is coming right up on 200,000 miles. It is 25 years old or thereabouts, and it's had a lot of things go wrong with it in this first year that I've owned it. So let's talk about all the things that have gone wrong, and the most recent thing, a battery, and the new battery that I got, and some of the things that changed at the good old Interstate Battery. Welcome to Man Time. Alright man, well this is going to be the easiest repair slash upgrade that I've had to do to this thing thus far. There's been a long list of, excuse me, there's been a long list of, of repairs that I've had to do to this thing thus far. And I was able to show a couple of those things, but just looking up under the hood here, I've got 3 new parts. So one is going to be a fuel filter, which was pretty difficult to put in there, honestly. You have to like loosen up this clamp holder thing and like to be able to actually get it out of there. The second and third ones are going to be the brake master cylinder. That went out in traffic, like I almost got in a wreck. Pedal went to the floor. And then also the clutch master. And the clutch slave, which is actually pretty easy to do. It's just kind of right down here. But that's just looking up under the hood here, those 3 things. And bleeding the clutch, incredibly difficult. Incredibly difficult. So I ended up changing out the master and leaving the slave, and then couldn't get it to bleed. Apparently it's as hard as a Ford Ranger, Mazda B2300 or whatever. Both of those two, extremely difficult. I couldn't get it to bleed like all day, or I was working on it, you know, after work at night here. So I went and I got a slave, and I was like, well, I'll just change that out. That might have been the problem, you know, the clutch just kind of quit working. Like it had like that much throw, and like barely threw the clutch out to shift gears. So I went and got a master and put that in. But it's got the tube that runs up, over, and then down. So there's always like this trapped air bubble in there. Even though I got it to gravity feed, I did want it to completely bleed out dry. That way I'm, you know, got all new fluid in the system. So I basically just cracked it at the slave there, cleaned out the entire line, let it bleed through. But it would never build pressure. Just never build pressure. So what you have to do is you have to put a vacuum pump on the slave nipple with that open and the system sealed. But what you have to do is have the pedal out in order for that to work. So you put the pedal out, you fill it up with fluid, and then you're able to suck with the vacuum, and it actually sucks that airline out of there. So you'll need a Mighty Vac 8500 with the suction, so you can suck out that fluid. Like I said again, the brake master had to do that, and then basically every component in the front suspension failed. So every ball joint had to be replaced. I showed replacing the struts because I had like a wobbling or like a rattling going on in there. Turns out that was a combination of the axle, CV axle failing. The dead giveaway there is the boot ruptures and it starts slinging all of the grease in there. And then it eventually gets dry and breaks down, and you have to replace that. So I had to replace both struts, both axles, every ball joint on the thing. So it's got tie rod and ball joints. That's just a single piece, you know, on each side of the tie rod end. It's got a ball joint going into the tie rod, ball joint going into the suspension A-arm. But to change out the ball joints, I did the ball joints and the CV axles at the same time. You're going to need to separate those ball joints anyway when you do the axles, and if you're using a pickle fork to separate those, it's going to destroy the boot anyway. So you're better off, you know, just getting the full ball joint set. But the upper, lower, and then there was like another ball joint on there. There was like 3 ball joints, plus the tie rod end ball joint deal. You have to take that whole assembly off and out to get that lower ball joint out of there. It's a real pain. It's a pressed in there, so it's not like you can just. It's not like you. What am I doing? Grabbing an 11? Yeah, it's not like you can just get it out with it on the vehicle. You have to take the whole thing out, press it out, or do like I did. Basically, just use a big hammer and a socket and drive it out of there. You know, off the vehicle. How am I getting that one out of there? What am I working with here? So these are 10 millimeter. How's my organizational system? Can I find a 10? Got it. Anywho, so the last thing that I'm doing here is changing out the battery, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about modern day customer service in automotive. It's definitely not getting any cheaper to fix your car, right? Well, I typically will go to Interstate Battery just for the convenience of being able to pull up there, pay the premium for the battery, and have them come out and change it. And it may have just started here. It may have just started at this certain location, or it may be a nationwide thing. But I am sitting there getting ready to pay for a $200 battery, which is $150 anywhere else. I typically get the green tops, the better ones. They had a lower budget, around $150 one, but I was like, man, I'm just going to get the good one, because why not? And I was like, yeah, if you can put that in, I'm on my lunch break here, and don't have too much time to hang out, and he was like, that'll be $30. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, that's a $30 charge now. I was like, okay. So I was like, well, let me see if I've got tools in my car to do that. I ended up not having enough tools because, you need an open end for this one, I guess. But yeah, so I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll just take the battery and change it out and then come back and get the, drop off the core tomorrow or whatever. The core on these is $20, so, that's why it was nice, just to be able to come in, drop it off, and be like, all right, not drop it off, but be like, pay for it, and then start installing it, and get the job done there. I've had other batteries installed there for free, fairly recently. I think as recently as this summer. So it's definitely a new thing that they're doing. But why would you do that to your customers? You're already charging a premium for the battery. I mean, the least you could do is give the customers the service to do it. Not many people might look at that as a value add for the business. I certainly did, though, and now that that's not there, I guess you might as well. I think O'Reilly will even do it for you also. I'm not certain on that one, but for a battery-specific store that makes their money on batteries, you'd think they'd go the extra mile and put the battery in here for you. So. They are not this time. But this is how you do it. So it's got that top clamp, it's got this cover, and then of course the battery. This one was in the vehicle when I got it, and let's check the date here. This is a 22, and it's already failing. So this is why I don't go with the, the cheaper batteries, typically. This thing is, well, shoot, it's about 2 years old, and it's already having a hard time starting. And it's just not working good. So I left the headlights on one day at work, and in the 3 hours until somebody had told me that the my lights were on. I go out there and the car won't start. So I'm, you know, if a car can't have the batteries on for 3 hours, you know, before you realize you left your lights on, I don't think that's a very good battery, in my opinion. So, and it was getting harder to start in the morning, that sort of thing. Let's get this new one in. Yeah, so here is the elusive, the elusive green top, right? Yeah, this, so with the charge on there for the core, it came out to $250. $250 for a little tiny, oh boy, little tiny car battery. I don't know how that makes you feel, but that makes me feel very unhappy with my purchase. And paying a premium, you'd think you'd get at least an install for free. Like, give the guy a reach around, you know? Anyway, let's see. Back to all the things that I've had to change out. Let's see here. There was grommets on the clutch pedal on the inside, and a little sensor. The grommet failed, so I had to get it up under there, replace those. Also changed out the rear struts. Also had an exhaust leak, and while I was in there, cleaned out the cat and adjusted the O2 sensor. And the cap and rotor assembly here, that got corroded and started misfiring. So, there you go. I guess if you're looking for all the things you may or may not need to replace on your Honda CRV, that is a pretty good list. Beyond that, I guess there's something up here somewhere that leaks into the cab. That one had, this one had that problem. Beyond that, like I said, the head gasket was changed. What actually happened was there was a burnt valve or two, and on this engine, I looked it up. They recommend from the factory a valve adjustment 80,000 miles in. Every 80,000 miles, adjust the valves. So I guess the valves, you know, kind of go out of spec for the lash over time, but those are all set from the guy that worked on it previously. Yeah, but I think that's a pretty full list. If there's anything I missed down there in the comments that you've had problems with your CRV, everything else on here is really nice so far. But yeah, a lot of stuff failed on you know, it was OEM parts failing. Just under 200,000 miles and about just under 25 years, 23 years, something like that. So anyways, that's all of the stuff that failed. I will say though, like the clutch master slave situation there that failed, I had my 1995 clutch master go out at under 150,000 and like 10 years. Yeah, under 10 years, under 150,000, that went out. So, I mean, you know, all these cars have their problems. I'm just giving you, you know, this one specifically. But most cars are going to have these similar type of problems at around 200,000 miles and after, you know, coming up on 25 years. So, all right, I'm going to get this battery installed myself because I can do that because I'm a man. Anyways, get out there. Have you some man time too.